What is up, guys? Prickly Cactus here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and today we are going to be showcasing how to complete the current Grandmaster difficulty Nightfall Savathun song, but not just beat it with a platinum rating to get those rare materials and god tier exotics, because there's nothing else going on in Destiny 2, and I'm not going to stoop to clickbaiting exotics that aren't in the game. And so, let's get started. So, first things first, let's take a look at the unique modifiers for this week's Nightfall. Well, we've got Fire Pit, so you're going to be receiving a ton of solar damage from the Acolyte grenades. The champions this week are Unstoppable and Barrier, and that is it. And the next thing you want to be aware of is Savathun's Dirge, and that's going to increase incoming void damage and aerial damage, so you don't want to be in the air. So, in terms of loadouts that are great to conquer this Nightfall, well, my team actually went for the triple Ariana's Vow combo. We didn't really see anyone else do this, but it was absolutely fantastic for the entirety of the Nightfall. Ariana's Vow, an exotic hand cannon that's in the special slot, is capable of taking down the barriers of barrier champions. So, all of us having access to that weapon means that we have barrier champions completely covered. And you can see in the background gameplay that when we do encounter a barrier champion, it's as simple as picking away as soon as the barrier goes up. That's honestly a good thing because you can shred it super fast with the Ariana's Vow. One person can take down the barrier no problem, and then the champion always goes into a certain animation where they're just kind of stuck there. And that means you just go to town on their crit. Other advantages of the Ariana's Vow includes amazing ammo consumption, because if you pick up a brick and you have double hand cannon scavenger, you get like 14, 16 rounds. It's honestly insane. So we were never having any sort of ammo concerns when using this gun. Really liked it. I mean, I'm even a scrub who doesn't have the catalyst complete for this weapon yet, and I still really liked it. Now, in terms of other weapon choices we went for, we were all using a primary kinetic hand cannon with unstoppable rounds, and there is all the champions covered with just those two weapons. The advantage of using double hand cannons is, of course, that your hand cannon scavengers, hand cannon loaders are going to work for both weapons, although you normally never run out of primary. It is nice to have. And the weapon in particular I was using was the old-fashioned hand cannon with demolitionist and explosive rounds. My other teammate was using a 7th Seraph revolver with underdog and timed payload for some reason, and then my last teammate was using a classic spare rations with rapid hit and rampage. Another thing we all did together was use machine guns of differing elements so we could take down the rest of the shields. Keep in mind there are going to be all three elements present within this Grandmaster. So Ariana's Vow is of course solar. You got those handled. So two of us were using arc machine guns. I was using the 21% Delirium, a fantastic weapon for ad clearing especially. And actually bosses, if you can get killing tally very high, it does a lot of damage. And then my other teammate was using a God Roll 7th Seraph Saw, again covering that arc damage. And there's definitely more arc than void, but to deal with the void, my last teammate was using a Bane of Sorrow, which covers void damage and again is machine gun. Because of armaments, for the armor, you're pretty much always going to have ammo for these machine guns, and you're essentially using the Ariana's Vow for damage dealing and taking out a lot of the champions and higher tier enemies. And then to cover the ads, you have your primary, of course, but you also have that heavy machine gun to just deal with any sort of high number of ads running at you at the same time. And it was very, very effective. Now, in terms of armor, we had two Titans and a Warlock. The Warlock, was using the Phoenix Protocol exotic chest piece, absolutely fantastic, which lets me get my well back so much more often by putting it down and getting kills within it. And if you have any sort of Hive perks, Hive armaments, absolutely fantastic. Hive barrier to reduce incoming damage, again, like basically essential. And then I also found room for a hive purposing mod as well, just to get even more grenades to trigger armaments more often. And that's kind of what we were all using. Whatever hive related perks you have, throw them on. And great news, it's like all hive throughout this entire Grandmaster, and you can get the hive perks from the menagerie. You don't even need to do the Crown of Sorrow raid, so get farming. In terms of other exotic choices for the Titan, I would highly recommend the Helm of Saint 14, not the Lion Ramparts. I don't know why he was using this, I think it's just to bug me. Now moving on from there, let's discuss some tips and strategy involving the actual strike. So you're first going to enter this room where you have to get through the door, you have to defend it while it's being opened, but when it eventually does open, just be aware there's 3 champions on the other side. You do not want to be up close to it. Send someone forward to trigger it opening and then have them run right back and deal with these champions at a distance. Moving on from there, my next big tip is that there are a couple of parts where you have to transport a Void Orb to take care of a Shrieker, and the Shrieker is fully immune shielded, completely invincible. So having an invisible hunter here is actually quite useful, especially for this part you're seeing where there's 2 of them, and yeah, we came close to definitely going back to orbit here. So again, an invisible hunter would be pretty nice here. Now the rest of the strike is pretty normal. There's definitely going to be some parts where there's a lot of enemies, multiple champions at the same time, but the strategy for those is, as always, you know, take it slow, pick off one guy at a time, don't be afraid to back up and create distance. Oh, and don't be afraid to pop your supers. If you are running similar builds to what I would recommend, which is the triple Ariana's Vow, you don't have to utilize something like Izanagi's, which means you don't have to utilize Special Finisher, which uses up a third of your super. So with these builds, you're capable of popping your super way more often, and so make use of that. Have supers that can buff your team or do extra damage, and don't be afraid to use them when you are in an encounter with multiple champions especially. Now, for the boss fight, I have quite a few tips. So, after certain phases of damaging the boss, remember that enemies are going to spawn from certain sides. So, the boss is going to teleport, and then enemies are going to spawn all around the right side, so you want to be on the left side. Then when the boss goes back to the middle and then teleports again to the left side, enemies are going to spawn with the boss on the left side, so you want to move to the right side, and then enemies are going to spawn from all around. And so you want to be in the back middle. Now, importantly, the first big spawn of adds, there's going to be multiple barrier champions that spawn. Then the second wave of adds on the left, there's going to be 3 unstoppable ogres that spawn. And that's definitely going to be your harder challenge to overcome, so just be prepared for those guys. Something else you may want to know is that going up on this platform seems like a good idea, but there's actually a mechanic where cursed thralls will spawn there if you're up there to keep you off of that platform. So yeah, keep that in mind. Now at the very end, you're going to have to transport an orb to get the final damage phase of the boss. A couple of things to remember: make sure to have someone run forward, grab the orb, and then run away, because just grabbing the orb is going to spawn multiple wizards, so you can take those guys down, and then when it's completely clear, just the boss remaining, that's when you want to deposit the orb. Remember, however, don't just run up there. Make sure someone else has the boss's aggro, that he's shooting at someone completely else, and then send the guy in to grab the orb and slam it to get that final damage phase. And that's really it. But one more thing you may want to be aware of is that this Nightfall is apparently glitched in some way, because even though we got all of the platinum rewards, we went back and looked, and none of us got any of the weekly Nightfall rewards. So we didn't get the 100k completion, we didn't get the overall Nightfall completion, which makes no sense because we ended with like 250,000 in terms of score. So something weird is happening. However, of course, if you're interested in farming materials and exotics, which most people are, that shouldn't matter too much. In any event, guys, that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed, found this informative, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoy the video, and as always, have a good day.